And we're live. Thank you so much for watching. This is the coaching chats with Marina and Caroline.
I'm Marina Baranowski of the Coaching Marina.
And I am Caroline Day from Safe Data Change. How are you, my friend?
Lovely. How are you?
Doing well. I'm excited about today's
Me
topic.
too.
It is one of my favorite things to talk about. It's one of my favorite things, one of my favorite feels. And today we're going to talk about gratitude. There's so much to talk about gratitude, right?
So much, so
Let,
much.
let the flood, begin.
Yes.
So much to talk about. So, why don't we start by talking about our own definitions of gratitude?
Okay.
What is gratitude to you?
Gratitude is a very large thing for me. Gratitude has become a compass for me. It has become something that not only do I embody and feel, I can use it as a metric as I go through my life. Um, it is there with me when I am going through hard times. It's there with me when I'm going through good times. It is something that is is like the heart, it's the pulse of what and how I operate. It's my operating system.
Oh, I love that. I want to know, like, how can I just get in a little bit just so we don't lose what you just said? So it's your operating system. Gratitude is your operating system, your compass, something that you can track, you said. So
Yeah.
can you explain a little bit more about that?
There was an evolution to being grateful, because it's it's an action. So it's like a verb, it is a noun, it is something that I use. Okay, so for my evolution in this, when I am trying to, it started when I was trying to get through some hard times and changing my mindset on those hard times needed to be part of what I needed to do to get through them. I didn't want to pass by that hard time and ignore it like I did in the past. I wanted to be able to sit with it. I wanted to be able to understand the moment, and gratitude was where I found the easiest thing for me to quantify. So when I sat and why is this happening to me moment, I can look at it and use it as um, a learning tool.
That
So,
is beautiful.
yeah.
Wow. Okay, so this is your definition now. What was your definition when you were a kid? What was gratitude?
Gratitude was something that really wasn't there. Um, there was a couple of pieces to this. When I was a kid, I would be forced to say thank you. I would be pushed into having an emotion or being thankful or, expressing it. That was the extent of being, grateful for something. You received something, you received a gift, or, someone said a nice comment to you. Tell them thank you. There was always a push to it. Outside of that, it was a sign of weakness. Being and a close to your emotions, showing any sort of positive emotion towards anyone could be deemed as a sign of weakness and used against you. So you would hold it in. You wouldn't be able to express it in a way that was healthy, let's just say.
Okay, so let me go deeper on this because I know we're both raised Catholic, right?
Yes.
And so when you're obviously going to church, you're learning all of these things to be thankful for your life, to be thankful, or even to pray, right? And a lot of the prayers are related to you thanking some sort of body, right? God, Jesus, Mary, for the things that you have.
Right.
So how was that separated from what you were living because you were raised Catholic. So tell me a little bit about that.
Church to me was something that I did. It was you just went to church, you listened or didn't listen, and you kind of you suffered your way through it. Uh, it wasn't something that I was connected to at that time of my life. So being being told to be grateful, for being alive and for what God has done and for what Jesus has, did for us and all this, it didn't land on me in
Mm.
a way that made sense. So it wasn't something I was able to embody. And I didn't go to a Catholic school and it wasn't really explained. It was more like a Sunday event. And you did go to, you had like Catholicism classes, but again, too young for me to really be able to embody what it meant to be grateful, to our Creator. It was definitely something that I didn't have. And then in my home life, no one was thankful. No one was saying thank you in a way that meant anything to me either. So, my mother would do something and I would watch my parents really not thank each other for anything. They wouldn't have any manners towards each other. And it was like, well, if they're not doing it, why do I have to? So this gratefulness was pretty much absent. There was, forced gratefulness, be forced, but I didn't feel it. It was an embodiment. It wasn't just an action. I needed to feel it.
Okay. Well, very different. Yeah, let's talk a little bit more about it. Like for me, gratitude is love in action. It's you professing
Mhm.
your love, it's you observing your love. That's what gratitude is to me. It's the closest thing to love.
Yeah.
And it probably always has been. But then again, I was raised Catholic. Up until, I was 10, I think my parents didn't really go to church. They would just tell each other, they would tell people that they were Catholic, but we didn't even go to church on Sundays. We would go at the end of the year for like Christmas time. We would go to the church, but barely go anywhere. But at home, unlike what you just described, we were always talking about gratitude. In fact, because we were raised poor, we had to be grateful for everything. It was one of the topics that was always there. Be grateful for what you have. I'm very grateful for X, Y, and Z. Aren't you grateful? So it was almost like you have to be very grateful because we have what we have because God gave it to us, or, like it was because we couldn't have it and now we have it. And my parents always felt very grateful for the things that happened to them. They were really poor and they were able to purchase a house at the time went in a way that they thought it was never going to be possible. And they did it right when they had twins with a 2-year old. And so for them, it was like, wow, we're so lucky. And so they always expressed being so lucky and being so grateful for everything that they had. And then my grandmothers were also very religious and they always expressed a lot of gratitude around us. You have to be grateful for this, my love. Like I remember as a child, be grateful for this. Be grateful for the little things that you have. And so we grew up with a lot of gratitude in our lives.
For me, it was very similar in that, again, I was being told to do something, but as a kid, not understanding what that really meant. So I
Mm.
can say, yes, I'm grateful for what we have. I'm grateful for the things around me. But there was a missing piece for
Mm.
me. Like it wasn't there for me initially. And I didn't know how to connect with it in
Mm.
such a way that was meaningful to me. So that didn't happen for decades, honestly. There
Mm.
was almost a sense of, well, I'm here and I deserve it. I deserve everything that I have, so, I'm a good girl. I deserve everything that I have. Instead of looking at it from, it could be taken away. And you really need to be sitting in this moment now and being super grateful for whatever it is that you have, whether it's excess or that you don't have anything. You just sitting in this moment. And until everything, it took me losing everything for me to rewrite what it was that gratitude meant to me.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's beautiful. And that makes a lot of sense, like when
Yeah.
you hear it, like when something happens to you. Because you're right, like even though I grew up with a lot of gratitude around me and I hearing gratitude, for me, I always felt it. I always felt it, and I always felt like mine was just like so big. I didn't know why it was even like it was so big. I wanted to love and I wanted to love a lot. And like I wanted to be so grateful and thankful for everything. When I was 11, I started to do first communion. And for me, it was so impactful. I had this like connection with, God that for me, it was like bigger than everything, like, and then I went into like I did after first communion, I did the 3 years in church, Sunday church school, and then I did my confirmation. So I was in church for like 5 years straight. And so all learning how to be so grateful, etc. The thing is, you're right, it does change because I felt like I was so grateful for the things that I had and have, but I never imagined a gratitude for things you don't have or gratitude for things that didn't happen or gratitude for like that concept was a little foreign to me, but yet I think because I was so grateful for what did exist and I wanted to just immerse in that, for me it was love. Every time I thought of gratitude, I thought of thanking somebody. I was so close to love. And when you're that close to love, it's almost like you don't want it to go away. And the more you ask for it, the more you get. And then the more you get, the more you want it. It was like this very consuming feeling for me.
That's beautiful. And
Yeah.
and I don't know if I would go back, because I think that I needed to have those experiences in order for me to get to the point where I could use gratitude in a way that has been meaningful to me. So I'm learning from a very rough place, and it was a genuine connection instead
Mm,
of being told and, say thank you. Because there's
yeah.
more to saying thank you when you're talking about gratitude. When I say thank you, when I am grateful for something, there is a level of emotion that goes along with it. And it has really changed me.
Mm,
It really has. It's completely changed me. It has rewritten parts of me and really has been able to heal me, because the mindset is that I'm grateful for everything. And when I say this, every single thing, every moment in my life, I'm grateful for. The good ones, the bad ones, indifferent, whatever it is, the mundane ones. I am grateful that they happen because it has enriched my life. It has made me learn. It is now a teacher. Gratitude is now my teacher. It teaches me how to move forward.
mm.
That's been a huge, huge thing for me.
Yeah. Let's go there then, because you said, I had to lose everything to like really understand the meaning of gratitude.
Yeah.
How was that for you? Like, what was the moment for you that you were like, did you say I need to be grateful for this, or how did it happen?
It started really slow. It started really slow. It was when I lost my everything. So it would be like, when my ex-husband left, when my children and I were not spending 24/7 anymore together. So I missed them. My job was gone. Like there was so much that I've lost within that moment. And I had to pull myself out. I had to develop a way for me to understand, make meaning of everything that was going on around me. So when I would take a very small piece of it and I would look and I would say, what can I be grateful for in this moment? Everything is awful. Everything's awful around me. Can I find one shred of goodness in any of this? Just one little thing. And it started really small for me. It was like, oh gosh, that coffee smells really good. Or um the eggs I made myself, taste really great. Like just small little things to make the darkness that I was going through have a little bit more light. And I go, you know what? That makes me feel okay. Okay, so let me move on to something else a little larger. And it took so much time, but I was finally able to go through all of the things and go, there was a reason for all of this. What is the reason? And then I had to search through all of the wreckage that was my, 30 something years at that point and go, that was a moment when I learned, how important it was for me to love on myself. This is the moment that I, needed to have, so I know how strong I am. And just being grateful for those moments, those teaching moments where I can use it to my advantage. And that's how I continue to go on. Because you know what? You're going to have moments in your day, in your life, in your week that are going to be just draining. And you have to go, all right, well, what is this trying to teach me right now? And what can I be grateful for in this moment? And so that moment that is like really, really awful is not so awful anymore. And you go, all right, something I can handle. What used to be a catastrophe for me is now just, Tuesday. Like it is a way to move through life and enjoy the moments in your day and focus on those good times instead of focusing on the heaviness. It's just a choice.
Mm,
You're not ignoring the bad. You're just choosing to not focus on it as much.
I love that you said that. I was just going to ask because people think, oh, like, if I just if I just focus on the positive, does it mean that I'm ignoring the negative?
Yeah.
No, and it doesn't necessarily mean that. It's really like a choice. Sometimes there are, feelings that needs to be processed because otherwise it would just stay there until you process them. Sometimes, even though you want to look in the positive, sometimes by looking at the negative, that's the only way through. You have to go through it in order to move forward. And so that's important that, to hear that.
Yeah.
I think for me, like I said, because I was such a grateful being, I was just happy with whatever I had. And I was just a happy human being, I feel like. And then I moved here. And even though, like, for some people, it was still the same, I felt like I was then masquerading who I was. I felt like the moment that I moved, it was like, I don't want to show people I'm ungrateful because remember, I wasn't. But at the same time, I'm not grateful for this. And so it's very hard because I was masquerading being positive because I was so used to being positive and that's how people saw me as positive that it was hard for me to be anything not that, but I wasn't that, And so for me it was very hard because I still wanted to be thankful, but then I will go inside and be like, I'm not thankful at all. This sucks. But I wouldn't share with anybody. It was kind of like our conversation earlier. People have to
Yeah.
watch, episode one because you talked about the vaults, right? Like how
Yep.
you have a feeling and you just kind of hide it. For me, I hid it for a long time. On the outside, I was this happy kid, but inside, I was really hurting, but I didn't want to be ungrateful. My parents were coming to another country, to give us a better life, or is what they said, even though the life at the time was crappy. It was definitely not the better than what I had, and so but I knew that they were talking about a future that was better for me. It's just that the present moment was not that moment, right? And so it's very hard to feel grateful. One
But you
thing,
didn't know it at the time.
I didn't know it at the time. And so for
Yeah.
me, I wasn't feeling grateful, even though I was saying I was grateful. The feeling wasn't there. And so because I wasn't grateful, I wasn't feeling grateful, it's almost like I disconnected myself from my being. It was almost like I separated myself, from who I really was because I was a grateful person, but now I'm not. Like, what does this mean? And so I faked it so that I could continue to be that person, that positive person, but it wasn't happening, and so it took me a lot of time for me to create safety for myself. I had to talk to so many different people because I didn't want to tell people that I needed help because how can that happy person that people saw needed any help? You never expressed that you needed any help. How is that possible? And so, because I had masqueraded for so long that I was happy, it became even harder for me to ask for help because people would be very confused of this happy person trying to find help. And I see that a lot, even in my clients now, right?
Mhm.
It's so hard for people to ask for help for whatever belief that they have in their, that they carry. They carry these beliefs and it becomes very, very hard for them to have faith. It becomes very hard for them to ask for help,
Yeah.
because it would mean that you would have to remove your mask. And for people, it's very hard to do,
Yeah.
right? For all of us, for a lot of us, it's just very, very hard to do. And so for me, that was the struggle that I had for many years, was because I continued to be that happy person. It was harder and harder for me to show that I was very unhappy.
Thank you for bringing that up. That is a pretty much the experience as well for me, but when you're putting on these masks, and again, we spoke about it before, but like when you're putting on these masks, you're not being your true self. And what happens within that is you start feeling other emotions. You start feeling guilty, you start feeling shame, you start looking at yourself like, what's wrong with me that I have all of this and I can't sit in gratitude and I can't be thankful and I'm so unhappy. Why is this even a thing? Something must be wrong with me. And that's how I sat with that for so long. We're talking decades that I'm like, something must be wrong with me. And if I say that there's something wrong, then that's a sign of weakness. This is a big thing that runs through, um, but yeah, 40 and over. Like it's just something that carries through. Unfortunately, we're being told to, you don't say anything because if you do, then someone either can use it against you, find that you're weak, and you don't want to do that. You want to keep your emotions close to you and you don't share those things because there is no safety. And you only share those things with people that you do feel safe with. And who are those people? Especially when you're young, maybe it's your family. I'm not going to tell my family. I'm not going to tell my family because those are the people that will use it against me. Okay, so who do I have left? My friends. So I'll test and I'll say, this is how I'm feeling, and you don't know what you're going to get out of that. So maybe you'll try it once or twice, and if you get a wrong reaction, you're back. You're just going to keep it close to the vest. So in trying to wrap that in gratitude, I wasn't grateful, really, for everything that was going on growing up. All I could focus on was what I didn't have, the friends I didn't have, the clothes I didn't have, the toys I didn't have, all these things that I didn't have. And I sat in that so long that that was my experience. I didn't understand that growing up. I just focused so heavily on the things that I didn't have when I, in an adult lens, went back and looked at everything that I had a beautiful house. I had a beautiful family. I had the friends that I needed to have, not being super popular. I had the friends I needed to have to learn the experiences that I needed to learn at that moment in order to get me here. So by by putting it in that lens, and this is what I really work with my clients in that perspective shift, which is it is okay that you weren't grateful growing up. For me, like I had to give myself the grace to say, you didn't, you just, it wasn't part of your operating system. It wasn't something that you saw in practice. So it wasn't part of your story, and that's okay. But that doesn't mean that doesn't have to be that way now.
I love that so much. Thank you for saying that. We both graduated with the Jay Shetty Certification
We did.
School. And I do remember one of the modules that we go through is actually how we can rewrite our past.
Yeah.
For me, that was such a foreign topic to be able to rewrite your past. I didn't understand what that meant until I went to a therapist. I went to a therapist thinking, I can't live like this anymore. Like, I have so much guilt and I have so much resentment against my parents because I was a happy kid and I really believed I was such a happy kid. And then they moved me here and I'm not happy. And I did all of this. I created this life and I'm still not happy because I was so attached, like you were saying, to the things I didn't have, to the things I didn't get. Right. And I remember the therapist saying something in the lines of, and how beautiful was that? And I was like, what? And, like she really helped me understand what a beautiful thing it is that I didn't get what I wanted, that I moved, that I have parents who love me and wanted to give me a better chance at life. And so all of a sudden, it was like, wait, there's a way that I can actually look back and see the beauty of things that I never thought that there was beauty at all. You're talking that I can actually look behind and see this, what I envision as a mess. You have this perception of like mess that you can actually look and completely transformed how I looked at my past, and therefore you are changing the past. And so that was completely foreign to me, And then after that, I started my work, like with coaches and therapists to start rewriting my story, to start looking at it with a completely different lens, to making different choices. But I didn't even know that that was available,
Yeah, me
you know.
neither.
It's kind of like when when you were a kid and the parents say, you're going to eat this. And you think that literally that's the only option. Nobody told this kid that says, you can actually say no and ask if there's anything out in the fridge. You don't think that there's another option, period. Like you just think, well, no, but they gave me this and they asked me to eat it. And it doesn't occur to you that you can actually say, can I have something else? It just doesn't. Like you're so conditioned to being served a meal and eat it because somebody said you have to eat this, go eat it. Kind of like
But
sex.
most of the time you don't have it. Okay, so in my house there was no other option. Okay. It's like,
I'm just saying,
the
it's not
greasy
like you asked.
meatloaf, you don't want to eat that. You're gonna have to.
Same.
That is the only thing you're getting. You just don't eat after that, right? But
Yeah.
you at some point, and I don't remember that time that I had asked to eat something else and I was shot down. I don't remember when that happened, but
Mhm.
that wrote your experience that going forward, when you did have something that you didn't want or you didn't want to eat, whatever, you didn't have that option. So you have learned not to challenge. And
Absolutely.
we go through our whole life learning not to challenge. And that was gigantic for me. I was like, seriously, I can challenge these narratives. I can challenge, how things are around me and what goes on. Are you kidding? I'm going to do that then. And then you start questioning everything.
Mhm.
And then you start realizing that you can open up your mouth and say, yeah, meatloaf's not my thing. I'll just eat the bread. Like whatever it is, you can make those choices and you could change your own narrative.
100%. And I love that you said that because it does have to do with, the example that we gave is so good because some first we don't know that we can actually ask for an option. And then many times in our lives we have asked for an option
Right.
and it was rejected right away. You get what you get and you don't get upset,
Oh,
right?
wow. Yes.
And then
Woo.
and then because you learn that, you think that that's the case for anything in your life. And you even tell yourself, if you get yourself in a place where you dislike, your parents are no longer there, but you tell yourself you get what you get, you don't get
Don't get
upset,
upset. That's
right?
it.
Because that's what you learn. And so you just kind of learn, especially because I was raised in a house where there was a lot of gratitude. Now I don't have it. Now I still have to be thankful. But then because you don't say anything, you build up this resentment, this guilt, this pain that you never handle it. And I think the beautiful part about looking back and being able to digest what happened, feel the pain maybe again if he needs to be, understand what happened. And the first part that I learned from a therapist is it's okay to rewrite your story in a different way. But before you do that, you can also look at who you were then.
Yeah.
You look at what you were then, you look at all the feelings that were actually happened, right? They weren't fake, they were real. You had these feelings. And because you're not the same person now, you're able to go and change the feeling for that person. That's another thing that was just foreign to me. Wait, I can go and I can soothe. I am able to soothe this version of myself during that hard time as I am now. That
Yeah.
was also super foreign. It's not something you learn in school,
No.
okay? You
No.
don't learn that in school. And
Mm-mm.
so I went and I was able to soothe the person that was upset about it. And once we were both okay, we were able to look around and see the great things that happen because of those things. Look what you have because this happened to you. Look how much grace you need to give yourself because of everything. Plus, this kid did not know how to handle this information, did not know how to handle the pain. This person was actually hiding the pain to protect other people's feelings. You didn't want your mom to be sad or upset. Therefore, you didn't want to share it with them. You didn't want to share it with your friend because you were afraid of rejection. You're afraid that they were going to just brush it off. Oh, you're fine. You don't need it.
Oh,
Like,
yes. Yes.
you
Yeah.
have everything. You shouldn't
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
upset about that. I mean, come on, or at least you have this. They kind of just shift. Oh, I'm feeling bad because of this. Oh, at least have this. You're going
Yes.
home to a happy family. What are you talking about? There's so much to be grateful for, to belittle your feelings. And so that's what I love about gratitude
Yeah.
is because gratitude gives you a chance to rewrite your story. Gratitude gives you a chance to soothe yourself at any version, at any part of your life. You can go back and soothe that child, that baby, that adolescent, that young adult. And that's a beautiful thing. And if it wasn't for love and gratitude, I don't know if it would even be possible.
It's a beautiful tool, what you're talking about, that going back and being able to use your adult lens and do that for yourself. And it took some time for me to, at first it felt very foreign. Um, One, I had to dig out those memories to begin with because I push it down so much. But once I did, and I started with just a small thing, one, it could have been a comment that was said. When I stood away from it as the adult, watching the younger version of me interact with whoever it was, let's just say it was my mother or something, I would I would assess the entire situation. I would look at it from all different angles. I looked at it from how my mom would have felt or something that she was going through at that moment, or maybe my dad was in the room or maybe it was someone else. I was like, what is happening in this situation? Almost like if I was playing it as a movie, if I was watching a VHS tape of myself, that this is how would I assess the situation? Looking at it from that perspective instead of that that bubble of self as a child going, this is my fault. I am to blame for what's going on. I know this because this is what's being told to me. Instead of looking at it from the perspective of that it wasn't my fault or that it wasn't shameful or that I wasn't guilty of something or that I wasn't like, so there's negative emotions that I was feeling in that moment. I could peel all that away and just take it for what it was. A very terrible moment in my life that, I was able to heal from and know that I can give softness to myself as a child. I only had an operating system that worked like that. I wasn't told and taught anything different. I wasn't told that it was okay for me to have emotions and feelings openly. It was something that I wasn't allowed to do. I may have started as a very young child doing that, but I was told very quickly that, a child is to be seen and not heard. A child does not have a voice and an opinion in the situation. That I'm your mother, and that's why.
Swallow those tears.
Yeah, you shouldn't be crying. Why are you crying? Like we're in public. Like, what would everyone think? Or whatever. Like, so these are rules that we all, were taught and lived by. And it's any wonder why now people are waking up to this going, there's something not quite right about that that programming. And this is where a lot of clients are going, something's up. You're like, something's up. I don't know why I'm not feeling good. I have all of this around me and just something is not right. And that's what happened to me too. It is, I have all of this around me. These are all the things that I had hoped for and wished for, and I have not found that thing called happiness. Is because the missing piece was the gratefulness, that I wasn't able to sit in it and look around and say, I am grateful for everything and where I've been and how far I've come. I was always looking ahead, going, what am I doing next week? What is the next thing that I am trying to attain? What is the next thing, what do I want? What do I want? I want something that's ahead of me, not sitting here. I'm not sitting in that gratitude going, look at all that, look how far I've come. And just being grateful for that moment, going, I have so much to be thankful for. It's okay for me to want more things. It's okay for me to do, but in this moment, in this today, I can look around and go, I'm proud of me. I'm proud of me for making it this far. And I could give myself that pat on the back. I could be grateful for all the people around me, for the things that happened, the emotions that I was feeling, all those things created. this. And some of it's good, some of it's bad, some of it's okay, but I'm okay with all of it because I'm always a work in progress and I'm always growing. And
Yeah.
that is something to be grateful for as well. So each piece, there's that undercurrent of just being thankful.
But talk to us about, because you did, like me, you weren't grateful at some point. You didn't
Mm.
understand what was happening at some point. How did that change for you? For me, like I said, I went to a therapist. What was that point when you went somewhere or to someone, and what was the advice or the suggestion they had for you that made you start learning about perspectives and reflection or options?
It started with questioning myself. So I always had that question of something's not right. So strangely, I was listening to an interview with Julie Andrews, and she had said something that nothing in life is wasted. Nothing. And when I heard that, I'm going, she doesn't know what you mean, like, if she would know what was going on. But then as I thought of that statement, nothing in life is wasted. Nothing in life is wasted. And I'm going, well, why would she think that? And so as I heard her story and as she was, growing up and she also had difficult things, her message is that all of those things that did go on in her life, she learned from them. And I was going, maybe I can learn from this one little statement. And I started my search and I started listening to Jay, Jay Shetty. I started Mel Robbins. I mean, there's so many wonderful teachers, and they all have a different great perspective on gratitude. Um, but that one little thing, that one little message of if nothing in life is wasted, how could you make it and be grateful for it. So I that was like the beginning for me. And this was like, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago when I
Yeah.
heard this.
Wow, that is beautiful. I love Julie Andrews. We watch a lot of her movies lately. Me and my daughter. Um, yeah, I think, there is a perspective of like searching for an answer, right? And even like listening to things like this and then searching for more,
Right.
right? I think at some point I was even with like friends at the time, and I thought of maybe writing a letter to myself. And I remember in 2019, I wrote a letter to myself where it was the first time that I allowed myself to say that I was unhappy during all those years and how I wanted to learn to let it go. And so for me, it was very powerful. And I use that now for my clients, and I have heard so many good letters. Some of them are okay to, kind of tell me and they read it back to me. Um, because the idea is in this letter, you talk about your anger and your sadness and your guilt and your whatever it is, anxiety, depression. And then you talk about what you want for you and how you want things to be different. And then you give thanks to the things that did happen because they led you to where you are now, but then now you don't need them anymore. And so you're able in the letter to appreciate what happened and to also let go of what happened and why. This really did serve me for the time being, and I don't need it moving forward. I don't need this anger moving forward. I don't need this sadness moving forward. I want to choose differently. You were so important for me because I had to stop and pay attention to you and understand why you were here and what happened. And you helped me come back and rescue you. So for that, thank you. I'm thankful, but it's now time for me to part ways with the way I was feeling before. And so it's a beautiful process, to write a letter for when you are ready to go from, having one perspective in your life to now adopting a new perspective in your life.
It's a beautiful tool. It really is a beautiful tool. And there's many versions of that, writing the letter. Um, I think even Mel Robbins has one that she calls the unsent letter,
Mm,
where you write a letter to someone or something, and just expressing your gratitude, the why about it, the how, why, and you don't have to send it. It's being able to get the emotion out. Putting it to paper makes it real. It quantifies it, and then being able to release it in such a way is so that's a beautiful tool. I use micro gratitude a lot with my clients because a lot of them have a hard time really finding anything in their life that they would be grateful for. They're, again, old programming, we're trying to rewire. So this is where finding the small things, and you've heard people say, I'm happy and grateful for my cup of coffee in the morning, or, you know, that was a major thing that I started to do for myself. And I knew that it helped me. So when I'm talking to clients and I say to them, find one thing a day, just one, that you're grateful for. It could be a song you heard on the radio, or um, an extra special hug from your child, or just anything, that the smell of someone's cologne, anything, find one little thing, and you start rewiring your brain to start looking for things. Then if you're looking for one thing a day, more likely times than not, you have now are training your brain to look for more than one thing. So you could, oh, I can say that I was grateful for the smell of my coffee, or just the taste of it, or just being able to sit for 5 minutes and be able to scroll. I know that that's like a bad thing, but just taking the time, the few minutes a day for self, be grateful for that. Or it could be a walk that you went on, or your dog is extra specially, snuggly up to you, and just being grateful for those moments. That is the micro gratitude that changes and rewires your brain to
it
start
definitely,
looking for it more.
yeah, it definitely adds, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't process the pain that they have.
No, we're talking two different things. They're like, how do you begin? Like, how
Yes.
do you begin to recognize and being thankful for something when it's not something that you're used to doing?
Right.
You start off small, like anything else, and then you work your way towards that. When you're ready, like you said, to write a letter like that and being able to release and rewire and change your thinking when it comes to certain things that happen in your life, it took me a long time to get to that point, but I'm glad I got there. I'm grateful for the journey that it took me on because I was able to embody it instead of rushing through it. I could feel the gratitude
Do
instead
you
of reading through it.
remember if there was anything that you did? You're saying that you started searching and you started listening to Mel Robbins and you started listening to Jay Shetty. But when you were listening, were there anything that you were doing or practices that you were doing that started changing like your life and think your thoughts?
Journaling to me initially was something that I didn't feel safe doing. I'm not sure if people have that same feeling, but putting anything to paper meant that I would be sharing it to the world, that at some point someone could see this journal. So I never really wanted to put things to paper. So this is, and again, years I've come past and far on that. But initially having an assessment, like I felt like I needed to do a review after learning what gratitude was and creating my own definition of it and what it meant to me, then I could go through and do that process throughout my whole life. But what about the today? Now that I've already gone past it, writing it out, journaling it, and then changing that from journaling it to channeling it. So,
Okay, that's way far. Let's go
okay.
back a little bit because I think it's important for people to at least see a few examples
Okay.
how they
Yeah,
got there.
you
And
drive
so
this.
you said I was really afraid of writing things on the paper because you still did not feel safe sharing it because you were so conditioned to just pack everything in
Correct.
that everything that came out could be
Right.
shameful, could be judged, could be rejected. So when did you start then? When did you go from this is not safe to do to, you know what, let me write one thing. When was that shift and what happened?
Um, it was during that time when I was alone, when I didn't have anyone around me and my kids were smaller. So I felt safer. Like I put myself in a safer environment where I could share to myself. Um, I was with a therapist for a short period of time, and I believe he was the one that told me that journaling might be helpful. So I tried it then, but it was very short-lived because it was again this wasn't able to rewire initially. So I would take moments and like say larger days. I wouldn't journal every day. I would only journal. I would start slowly. I would only journal on days where I felt like I needed to put something to paper, that I needed to remember, like that I wanted to remember this moment for some reason. Because I felt like if I had it chronicled, then I could have a metric of how far I've come.
Mm, okay.
So
Why
that was
was that
how I was able
important
to
to you?
quantify it. Say again?
Why was that important to you?
I knew about myself, knew that my tendency was to forget. It was easier for me to forget things and ignore things and put it in my vault than it was to be able to process it. And I knew at that time that what I was working on was I wanted to be different. So I learned who I was and my old patterns. And again, through my own self, examination,
Recovery,
my
yeah.
therapist, just, and again, I wasn't with him for a long time, but from those little pieces that I was able to get from him, it set me on the road to it, which I was grateful for, right? And then finding that writing stuff down was okay, that
Mm.
it wasn't as bad as I was making it out to be. That I can write stuff down, have it, and use it as a quantifiable evidence that I've been there and now I'm here. Um, was how it started.
That's beautiful. Do you feel like you were only able to feel safe because now it was not just a deposit of feelings, it was like a tool? It
Yes,
sounds to me that, when you was just like write it, it's like, no, somebody can see it. But if you write it and it's for you to see it, because as you write it, you're going to see your progression. It's
right,
almost like you change the perspective of what writing is all about, like of the meaning of the journal. It's not for
right,
somebody to see, it's for me to see
right.
and see my progress.
Yeah, that was exactly it.
Okay.
And again, not putting the pressure on myself was helpful. I could say I'm going to pick and choose the days that I want and can do this, but knowing that I want to do it enough where I can show that I'm chronicling what's going on. So being able to give myself the allowance, I allowed myself to do this and give myself the safety in the space to do that was pretty much the first steps of me starting to learn about myself and start exploring all those little cracks and crevices and corners in the back of my mind that I've been ignoring all my life.
That's beautiful. And I think that we got to the point where I kind of wanted to go in, which is you need to feel safe. There has to be a time before anything, before any change, in order to feel safe. When you
Right.
feel safe to take the next step, when you feel that you can take a breath, when you feel that it's okay, that it's not as scary as you think it is, when you finally have this safety net somehow, somewhere, that is the first step before you can start making any changes. When you
Yes.
sit and you feel safe, then you can take the first step. If you don't feel safe sharing, if you don't feel safe speaking up, if you don't feel safe looking for help, then that's really hard to do on your own. And I think that's why coaches are so important, is because we provide this safety space. I mean, the safe space, the safety net that I was talking about, so that they can actually, then they're able to explore the possibility of looking at it, because looking at it is very hard,
Yeah.
especially as time goes, right? The longer you wait, the bigger you feel like it is. And maybe it's not growing at all, you know? Maybe it's a small jar, but the lid is sealed, and you're so afraid that if you open the lid, that a monster is going to come out, and then it's not. And then maybe it's not that big. Maybe it's not a monster at all, and you have all of these discoveries, but for some reason, it's been bottled up for so long that you're afraid of the pressure. You're afraid of the size, and so you have to create safety in order for do that. And I think when you create safety and you are able to go there, that's where you plant the first seeds of gratitude. It
Yeah.
is the most beautiful thing, is to realize that you can find safety in whichever circumstances. And I think that that's more of the first evidence of gratitude. Once you find that safety to do the first thing, and you see, even if it's like one thing, like you were saying, clients that cannot find anything to be grateful for. And then you go, well, trying to find just one thing tomorrow. And then they do. It's almost like, okay, she's giving me a safe space to allow myself to do one thing. And then when you do it, you can feel grateful because you allowed yourself to go there. I think that's beautiful.
Safety is a huge part of what we do, but what I try to provide is, yes, it's a non-judgmental space. But the reason what blocked me, and this is how I'm just speaking from experience, what blocked me was like the shame of it, the guilt of it, the insecurity of it, the just all of those feelings of, if I voice this, then someone now is go can judge me for it, use it against me, because it's stuff that's happened, right? As I've tried to, when I was younger, try to voice it or try to release it in some way, and it was swatted down. It was thwarted. There was no movement of it. So it's a lot safer if you put it in that jar or you put it in the vault and you just don't think about it anymore and you just keep going. But when you find someone, a trusted coach, friend, or whoever, where you can say anything to, and that you're not going to be met with what you're afraid of most, which is, again, the fear of being perceived, feeling guilty, feeling shame, feeling those bad emotions. It opens up the door for you to have, now you're safe. Now you can talk about it. Are you willing to talk about it? And if you're willing to talk about it, let's start breaking out. Let's go through these layers now. Those are some steps, but for in the lens of gratitude, okay? Because this is this beautiful piece of it. I was able, through being able to go through all of those negative emotions and being grateful for having those experiences, because it taught me so much. There's a lot of lessons that repeated in my life because I didn't go through it and understand what was going on. And only when I went through those emotions and why I was feeling guilty about something or shameful about something or insecure about something, it stopped. Once I was able to process it, those repeated patterns stopped. So I am very grateful for these tools that we're talking about right now that were able to get me past and through. This isn't about ignoring anymore. This is about living it. This is about in experiencing those things that the only lens that you had on was a negative lens. And now you can look at it from every angle and go, what can I be grateful for in those moments? And what I'm grateful for mostly about, especially in the negative moments, is that I had those experiences, that I can now recognize those experiences and help others with it.
That's beautiful. Wow. I love one thing that you said, and I never saw it like this. So thank you for your wisdom. You said that you actually, at some point in your life, you do ask for help. When you are feeling a certain way, sometimes you will share with someone. So you almost made me feel like the way that I saw it was nobody wants to put the feelings in the jar. They get put in the jar because when they do talk about their feelings or they express them in any way, shape, or form, they are judged. So they do actually experience the judge before they fear being judged. They do experience the guilt before the feeling of guilt. So they actually know what those feelings are and it doesn't feel good, and so it's beautiful because I never thought of it like that. Like, it's not like anybody wants to hold this up in a jar or a vault, like you said before. You actually try to, somehow express yourself as yourself. And in some way, somewhere along the way, that got pushed down, that got belittled, that got shut down, that got ignored,
Right.
that got deprioritized. And because of what happened, and it felt so painful, the response felt so painful that you think that you're not able to do it again, even with another person. We
Yes.
think, and I think Martha Beck talks about that on the Way of Integrity book. She is a coach, she's wonderful. And she talks about this, how we monopolize, it's not the word that she used something else, but she talks about how we hear one opinion and we globalize this opinion. We hear one or two people say you're not good, and all of a sudden you're not telling yourself two people told me I'm not good. You're telling yourself nobody thinks I'm good.
Yeah.
And there was only two people maybe that's told you, or maybe even one person, maybe it was a parent that said you're not allowed to talk about any problems in our family. Keep it to yourself.
Oh,
We don't
yeah.
talk about our problems with, the neighbors or your friends.
What would they
You keep
think?
it to yourself. What would they think? This is shameful. We keep our problems at home.
Yeah.
Maybe there was only one person who said that.
Right.
But what do you say? Nobody talks about problems outside of the home. You generalize something that you hear from one or two people and you make that the truth.
It's a rule. It becomes a
It's
rule of your life.
becomes a rule. And so when this happens, kind of like what you said, you actually did express yourself, you got shut down, and then all of a sudden you think that because you generalize, one person said, therefore the entire universe will think the same way. That's when we lock ourselves up, and it's hard for us to feel. I love the second part of what you said, which is then you find somebody that you feel safe with, that somehow you think maybe because this person doesn't know anything about my life, it's a blank page, and I can actually share with this person because this person has no other interaction, doesn't know my story. And I can literally just talk about this one thing, and somehow that is safety. So you do have to at least feel safe with someone. Someone needs to give you the idea, the perception that it's okay for you to break that vigilance so that you can open up. And it's much easier to do that when you don't have its history with that person. Sometimes it's a lot easier to open up with a complete stranger, and then you feel safe because you feel like at that point, like you said, there will be no judgment. Nobody is going to be. I love how you said it. You said you don't fear anything that you fear at this other environment. You feel like what you were afraid of the most, that's what you said. What you're afraid of most, you know, won't happen here. And
Yeah,
that's safety, right?
that's exactly safety. And having someone that you can confide in, that you can work on these things with, that you can express a thought that you can't do anywhere else. Um, because I had mentioned earlier, having this trust broken happened a long time ago. And it generally happens with someone that you love, someone that you trust as a child, to give you the right information. I thought my mother, okay, knew everything, that what she was saying was gospel. And I was not to challenge a thing about it, because if I did challenge it, it wouldn't be challenged for long. It would be a microsecond later, and I would not have it. So I was wired in a way that I trusted what she said. And so if it was a negative comment, that became my rule. That became what I thought of myself. That became what I would perceive others, the lens that I perceived others under. And when I was able to break free from that and start thinking on my own, and so when I finally had a space to start thinking on my own and exploring all corners and perspectives of what I've lived so far, it was so freeing. And I remember an experience that I had after having a pretty explosive session where I was able to get through quite a bit and falling asleep like I've never fallen asleep in my whole life. It was so releasing that I was able to unload so much in that one session that I had the best sleep of my life during that time.
What do you mean by session? You went to a therapist? Like what session? What do you mean?
Well, this was a conversation with a trusted person. This was
Wow.
a conversation that I had, and I finally felt safe um to express some things that I have had in this vault for a long time. We had this conversation, this with my husband, and we had this conversation, and we just kept sharing back, on and on and on. But we felt so safe in saying everything that we passed the release, the body, the physical release that happens after you have now released all of this is incredible. And I would wish that for anyone that is suffering, and really opened up the door for me to why I wanted to do coaching, because I felt like what I want to spread this message. I want to be the person that can be that safe space for someone
Mm.
to say the things that they need to say to get it out. And that is yet something else that I'm like an experience as difficult as it was something that I was grateful for and that I am grateful for. And that is that perspective shift that really changed my life.
That is so beautiful. Wow. And that is a beautiful reason to want to do this. You know, when we are so grateful for what has happened, right? However it happened to us, to the point that we want other people to experience it.
Yeah.
Like, not only was this great for me, but how wonderful would it be if I were
Yeah.
now able to have, give this safe space to other people so they can experience a full night of sleep.
Right?
That's so beautiful. Wow. Thank you for sharing. That was powerful.
I'm glad I can share.
Yeah, no, this was really beautiful. So, how do you see gratitude now that through all of this transformation, now you're someone who talks about gratitude with your clients.
Yeah.
What's gratitude to you now and how do you feel about it? Like how do you use it in your life now?
Practically, it's the first thing I do in the morning. It's as soon as I'm realizing that I'm waking up, I will be grateful for something. Even if it is just to be grateful for waking up, some days it's more difficult than others, but I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful that I'm able to spread whatever it is that is me for others. And in that moment, right as I'm waking up, I feel more connected to it. I can let it come through me and just be it just starts the day off differently than I have in the past. Um, and then at night, I'm always being grateful for the day. And this is all happening inside. This isn't necessarily sometimes I write it down, sometimes it's just, as a reflection of the day. But during the day, if something is giving me joy or that that I can look at it in with wonder, or it could be a bird that's outside that I haven't seen before, or um the weather is beautiful, like just any little thing throughout the day, I make sure that I acknowledge it in real time, acknowledge it.
Mhm.
Whereas before I wasn't, I was just kind of going through life, not really looking at the world around me. And now
Mhm.
I can. Now I can. It comes more naturally because it again it's part of my practice that I can assess something in real time.
Yeah. I think for me as well, I mean, it's just part of my life, but I think it became part of my life after all of that work that I had to do.
Yeah.
After really realizing that I had so much to be grateful for
Sure.
and that I could rewrite my story. Then I became obsessed with rewriting everything. I became obsessed with understanding where I was hurting, which area or aspect of my life that I could understand more so that I can go through it and rewrite that part of my life because I felt like now all aspects of my life deserved that care, not just one aspect, but all of the aspects of my life. And so I started saying no to a lot of things. I started trying to understand a lot of things, started to have conversations with people. One of the conversations that I had was really with my dad. I had to have a conversation with my dad to talk to him about how when I moved here, I didn't think that it was the best thing for me. And I don't think he ever knew because it was almost like automatic to my parents that moving here meant a better life. But because I was living in hell or thought to, so that I had to explain to him that to me, for me, my understanding of a better life would have been if I had stayed. And he didn't think that, because we were poor. And so he thought, I'm going to move here so I have a better chance. And I thought, but I was really smart. I could have done it wherever I am. And that was the type of confidence that I had growing up. I just had this knowing that no matter where I was, that I was going to be successful, that I didn't have to move to be successful. And so he finally understood. He's like, I never saw it that way. I never understood your part. Thank you for sharing me. And I feel like even our relationship grew fonder because I was able to share that with him and say, I understand what you were doing, the sacrifice that you were making, but to me, you were sacrificing more of the life that I had by taking it away, you know? But I understand what you did for us, and I'm forever grateful. And I'm still grateful. If it wasn't for him, I feel like both him and my mother are such trailblazers in the world. They had to move mountains in order to give their children what we have now. And I'm really grateful. But because of this gratitude, it was almost like I went back to who I was. And now I can be love again. Now I can actually be this close to love. Who else I can love on too? Like you said, it's so beautiful when we see our own transformation that the immediate response is, who else can be transformed like this? Because it is a beautiful thing to do. And so, that's why the name of my company is Safe Day to Change, because I always say, like at the end of my videos, remember every day is a safe day to change, is because more people need to learn that we can change everything and anything of our lives, that we have these choices, even the micro choices that you were, suggesting earlier, that we do have it,
Yeah.
and I now, like you said, we progressed from not knowing to teaching others. And now the other part of it now, which you mentioned earlier, was really like transcending, like really being, channeling gratitude. We go from feeling a victim, feeling like we're not grateful for anything, learning that there's gratitude in everything, and then how do we channel gratitude for others. So what's your experience of that?
The channeling, when you, in the same way that if you are thinking negatively all the time, it just becomes your way of being. It's just as powerful when you switch it. When you switch to being grateful for the things, even the small things, it becomes louder and it becomes more abundant. And then you can start recognizing things like I was saying in real time. And then once I was able to do that naturally, this wasn't like a forced thing. Like now, this is a very natural way of being that I can, in real time, be and absorb the gratefulness and the goodness that is around me. I'm not ignoring the bad, that's for sure, but I'm able to go through life and be able to just absorb it in a more natural way instead of it being something that I have to think about doing. And I love that you moved on to, because we were talking about a lot of self and gratitude of self when it projects outwards, like you're saying you were having a conversation with your dad. That changes relationships. The way you are, it changes the relationships that you have around you. So for example, like my relationship with my mom is like in no way the same relationship than it was even like 2 years ago. Just because I changed how I thought and how I operated, it not by default has affected people around me by asking questions, by being curious, wanting to express my gratitude for all the things, that I experienced, in my childhood. I wanted my mom and my dad to know that I am super grateful for everything that they have done, and that it wasn't all bad. And I just wanted to be, super grateful. And that just in that moment, you could feel it shift. The
Mhm.
relationship went from always, being combative or always looking to be defensive to this is we can say nice things. We can have the air of the relationship is being cleared away. And it takes time and, some difficult conversations sometimes, but you're talking, and what I said to my mother is that we're two adults, and I'm Marina and you're Harriet, and we're just two people that are existing in this world, and we just want to love on each other. So how do we do that differently? Like this is not a mom-daughter relationship anymore. This is like two loving human beings just trying to make it through the rest. And we built that from there. Now we can talk about things that are meaningful to her. She's writing a book. I'm helping her with it. I'm telling her about my coaching and experiences, and we can be supportive of each other because we have rewritten our our relationship table, if you will, and just putting it on a gratitude page instead of, oh my gosh, my mom is going to say something negative to me and it's just going to ruin my whole day. It just changes it. And all I did nothing but change me. That was it.
We need to give it a minute here.
But it's so true. And on the flip side, there's a lot of times that there are certain relationships that can't be healed right away
Hmm.
by you being you. And I have extended olive branches and um, all I've done is just express my gratitude to them. That's it. And
Hmm.
if they want to reciprocate, they can. And if they don't want to, they don't have to. I am just changing me, and I just want to appreciate whatever little moments uh, that I appreciated within our relationship and just let them know that I recognize it.
That's beautiful. I love what you said. I wanted to like linger a little bit, but I think you have a good point. All I did was change me. So Dr. Joe Dispenza says something that was on my website for a little while, and then I removed it. Maybe I should put it back. Is the best thing you can do for people is to show them what change looks like. It is the most profound way because it's the only way. You telling people how to change, what to change, that's not going to do anything. But you changing and showing them what change looks like, people are going to wonder what happened. How are you this different? What happened to you? And then all of a sudden they want the same medicine. They're like, I don't know what you're doing, but I need it, right? Because they're showing. So you're right about that. But then there's also the people that have a different pace than you, that are not learning in the same frequency and the same pace that you are, where you made all these changes and they're totally not ready to see them, not ready to acknowledge them, not ready to face them. And, or they're still hurtful about the past. They weren't able to go through the transition that you did. They weren't able to change their perspective of the past with you. Therefore, they're still there. And that's another thing, too, right? By not changing the past, you're stuck in the past by default. And that's another thing that it's so important for the work that we do is by reframing the past,
Right.
then we're really letting go of the past and able to move forward. Because otherwise, you're just stuck in the past. Love what you said. That's beautiful.
Yeah. The you said the word medicine. And like that resonated with me because that is what I think of gratitude as is medicine. It is
Oh,
something that is healing. It is powerful energy that can reshape your entire life. I know it has mine. And I even if I can give just a little bit of that, whether it be through what we're doing now, having these conversations, or, just, coaching one-on-one or group sessions, I want to be able to give that message, that medicine to people.
that's so beautiful. I never thought it like that. That was so beautiful. Gratitude is the medicine you want to share with people. That, which is why I said it was so close to love.
Yeah.
It's really love, like I don't know why people, like it's really love being expressed.
Yes.
It's love at its best expression.
So
Therefore,
true.
medicine. It's the medicine of love.
Yeah. I love that. That's great. I like that.
Yeah. I love that too. I think, for me, the channeling part is just a little bit different because with the studies through Dr. Joe Dispenza, once you learn to be grateful for what you have, He teaches you how to be grateful for the future. So that's the next step is you reshape the future by having feelings of gratitude towards what hasn't happened yet. And so that goes into faith, that goes into learning to love the unknown, learning to be okay with whatever happens, learning to channel gratitude and love and joy before you even experience it or them, right? So that's the next level.
Yeah,
First, you learn what is gratitude. Then maybe you can share it with other people what gratitude is. But the following, like the next step of it, would be to create more of it in the future. And we're all able to do that. And
absolutely.
that's why they call channeling, is because you're looking in the future and you're already imagining a better future for yourself through gratitude. Because the same way that we can imagine a different past, we can imagine a different future. Except we don't say different because it hasn't happened. So we can imagine a new future just the same way that you can imagine a new past. We're able to imagine anything really because we're so creative. And so we're able to create a future. And the way that I create my future is with gratitude. Like you were saying, like if you wake up with gratitude, not only for what was, but for your future, you are in a way writing your future. And so I think about my future all the time. And it's not because I'm not in the present, it's because I am in the present that I'm able to write my future. You're not able to write your future if you're already anticipating that it's happening, but you can feel your future now and be grateful for everything that is now and being grateful for what is about to happen now. And I think that that's a beautiful thing, which will be like, for me, the one of the last stages is when you become consciousness and you're able to just be in the presence of love until you become love itself. When you merge with love, and then all there is love, nothing else. And so that's my practice. My practice every day, not just in the morning, throughout the day, is be in gratitude, in presence, being yourself. And the way that I learn about gratitude is also gratitude is like water. Where it flows in is where it goes. And so we need to flow in gratitude into our future so that it goes into our future. So you're really pouring it into the future like water so that you can have more of it in the future as well.
I love that. I
Yeah.
do. When you had mentioned faith and you had mentioned, when you're thinking about your future, I am so grateful that there is a future. So, whatever happens from here on out, I feel that whatever path that I'm on is always for my highest and best good. So, releasing the anxiety of, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to me, tomorrow, what's going to happen to me in a year, 2 years from now, whatever does happen, this is what gratitude has done for me. Whatever does happen, it's for my highest and best good. And that I can love every moment of it because there's many of us, and I have lost a lot of friends that are no longer with us. So it is every moment I'm grateful for because whatever is here, whatever experiences that I'm having is meant to happen. And so let it just come and let it just be and enjoy the ride while you're here.
Yeah, because the future is actually not guaranteed.
Yeah.
Even though we expect a future or we know that there's a future, there might not be a future. So we have to live in the now. And I think that's why I love to be grateful in the now, is because I can envision a future without even happening, whether it happens or it doesn't happen, because I'm able to have the feelings about it right now. It kind of expands.
Yeah. My husband says, he goes, you never know, or you could step outside and get hit by a bus. What? Well,
Right.
there's no buses around here. But I
He's
mean,
right
like,
though.
but that's what I'm saying. Like, you just don't know how much time you have left. And being so grateful for whatever it is that you do have. Um, again, it's changed me. It's
Mm.
absolutely changed me.
So let's close out with maybe a list of 5 things you're grateful for, because we can stay here
Oh my
forever.
gosh. No, we can absolutely do that. Five things that I'm grateful for. There's so many. Okay. So my husband, first and foremost, is my number one who I'm grateful for. He's an absolute rock. He's my teacher. He's my everything. Um, I love him to death. Then my second thing would be my children, all of them. Um, third, my parents, um, my family. Um, and I'm grateful for the physical things, but for the most part, um, I'm grateful for time.
Mm, how do I follow that?
Sorry, go ahead. Give it a shot.
Boom.
Boom.
Check. That's beautiful. Yeah, I think same. I mean, I am so grateful for everything, right? Like it's hard, like you said, but family for sure, my husband, my daughter, my parents, my sisters, my brothers, my in-laws, right? So family in general, my family, my friends. And I think also for being able to learn. I think my ability to learn, I'm so grateful for. I'm so grateful for my ability to learn. I'm so grateful for the love that exists in my heart. And I don't know if that's already 5, like family,
It's so
learning.
many, right?
I'm so passionate about learning. So definitely family and friends, learning, love in my heart. I'm so grateful for love. I'm so grateful for all of the material things I have. And I'm just grateful for my soul. I'm grateful for being able to navigate, this body, maybe my body and soul, because I'm very happy to be in my body and be able to experience all of it. Doing this with you, I'm so grateful for you. I'm so grateful that I found you, that we went to the
So
same
grateful
school
for
together
you.
and we were able to do this. I think our conversations enrich each other. And, this is definitely my favorite episode so far.
Me too. I was just going to say that. There's so much love. I feel this beautiful loving energy and I do. I love you. I love what we have. I love our friendship. I love our connection. Um and I want to help and enrich. It is so amazing what we can do together and I'm like super excited about all this. But I'm glad and grateful for this and this time, you know,
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh, this is such a good topic for the end of the year, right? To be
Yes.
grateful for. And I think this is a very good chapter, like for people to think about, listen in, see the breakthroughs, understand the various ways of being grateful. I think we covered so much ground today. It's a good day. It's great. Thank you so much for
Thank
your
you.
wisdom again. This was
Thank
beautiful. I can't
you.
wait for people to listen
I
again.
know, I'm very excited.
Bye, guys.
Mwah.
Mwah.